Is Chicago, the city of broad shoulders, also the city of broad violence? Today, we delve into the heart of the Windy City, a metropolis renowned for its architectural marvels and vibrant culture, but also marked by a darker, more unsettling reality. A reality that is steeped in violence, echoed through the city's streets and neighborhoods. Chicago in the present day is a city grappling with a surge in violent crime. Recent reports paint a grim picture, with headlines speaking of shootings and gang warfare becoming a commonplace. The echoes of gunfire are becoming an unwelcome yet familiar soundtrack to life in certain corners of the city. The violence is not merely an issue of law and order, it's a human crisis, a societal dilemma that's tearing at the fabric of Chicago's communities. Children are growing up in the shadow of fear, their innocence tainted by the harsh realities of their neighborhoods. Families are living in a state of constant anxiety, their daily lives punctuated by the wailing of sirens and the news of another life lost to mindless violence. The scale of this issue is staggering. It's not just about the numbers, though they are indeed alarming. It's about the countless lives disrupted, the dreams shattered, the future stolen too soon. Each statistic represents a life, a story, a potential cut short. Each number is a reflection of the human cost of this escalating crisis. The societal implications are profound. The violence is undermining the city's social fabric, fostering a culture of fear and mistrust. It's hindering economic development, deterring investment, and hampering the city's progress. It's casting a dark shadow over the city's vibrant culture and rich history. Yet, amidst the despair, there is resilience. There is a city fighting back, a community refusing to be defined by violence. There are stories of courage and hope that stand defiant in the face of this troubling reality. This is the unsettling reality we face today, but how did we get here? As we continue our journey, we'll delve deeper into Chicago's violent past and look at the systemic issues that have contributed to this current state of affairs. But for now, we pause to reflect on the magnitude of the challenge that lies ahead. To understand the present, we must journey back to the past. Our journey begins in the mid-19th century. The city of Chicago, newly founded and teeming with potential, was not immune to the darker aspects of human nature. Violence was already a part of its DNA, as conflicts arose from political corruption, labor disputes, and ethnic tension. As we move into the early 20th century, the city's violent past took a notorious turn during the Prohibition era. Gangsters like Al Capone seized the opportunity to profit from the illegal alcohol trade, leading to an unprecedented wave of violence. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre, a gruesome event that claimed the lives of 7 men, remains a chilling reminder of the city's tumultuous past. The mid-20th century brought a new era of challenges. Amid the fight for civil rights, violence permeated the streets of Chicago. The brutal clash between police and protesters during the 1968 Democratic National Convention exemplifies this period of strife. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination that same year sparked riots, adding fuel to an already blazing fire. As we venture into the closing decades of the 20th century, the city grappled with the crack epidemic of the 1980s and 1990s. The surge in drug trade led to an escalation in gang violence, leading to some of the highest homicide rates the city had ever seen. These eras, marked by key events and figures, are not merely footnotes in history. They have shaped the city's present, influencing its culture, its politics, and its challenges. The echoes of Al Capone's reign, the civil rights movement, and the crack epidemic can still be heard in the stories of contemporary Chicago. The past has shaped the present, but it doesn't have to dictate the future. As we delve deeper into the narrative of violence in Chicago, let's remember this. Understanding our history is the first step towards changing our trajectory. Behind the headlines, a more subtle yet profound story unfolds. In the heart of Chicago, a war rages silently, fueled not by bullets and blood, but by societal factors that weave an intricate web of violence. This web is spun from threads of poverty, education, and systemic racism, each contributing to the cycle of violence that ensnares the city's communities. Let's start with poverty. It's a grim reality that in many corners of the city, the crushing weight of poverty is felt. Financial struggles can lead to desperation, and desperation, all too often, to violence. Next, we must consider education, or rather, the lack thereof. In underfunded districts, schools struggle to provide students with the resources they need to succeed. Without a solid education, many young people see few prospects for the future, and some may turn to crime as a means of survival. But perhaps the most insidious thread woven into this web is that of systemic racism. It's an uncomfortable truth, but an undeniable one nonetheless. Discrimination and bias have been deeply ingrained in our society, creating barriers that limit opportunities and perpetuate inequalities. This systemic racism can lead to a sense of hopelessness and frustration, feelings that can manifest as violence. These issues, poverty, education, and systemic racism, are not isolated problems. They're interconnected, each feeding into and exacerbating the others. They create a vicious cycle that, once started, is incredibly difficult to break. It's like a wildfire spreading through dry brush. Poverty ignites the flame, lack of education fans the flames, and systemic racism provides the fuel that keeps the fire burning. And just as a wildfire destroys everything in its path, this cycle of violence leaves devastation in its wake. But recognizing these systemic issues is only the first step. We must also seek to understand them, to delve deeper into their complexities and nuances, because only through understanding can we hope to find solutions. And so, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Will we continue to ignore the subtle story unfolding behind the headlines, or will we take a stand and fight the fires of violence at their source? Understanding these systemic issues is crucial in seeking solutions. Amid the darkness, there are glimmers of hope. There are numerous initiatives and organizations tirelessly working to reduce violence in the Windy City, each one illuminating a path towards peace. Take, for instance, community programs like Cure Violence. This public health initiative treats violence as a disease, aiming to stop its spread by mediating conflicts and providing support to those at risk. They have seen significant successes, with areas where they operate witnessing drastic reductions in shootings and killings, but the challenge lies in the sheer breadth of the problem. Violence, much like a disease, can be stubbornly resistant to even the most dedicated of interventions. On a legislative level, efforts are being made to address the root causes of violence. Policies aimed at improving education, creating job opportunities, and reforming the criminal justice system are at the forefront of this battle. Yet, the complexity of the issue means that progress can often be slow and hard-won. The intricate web of societal issues that feed into violence can't be untangled overnight. There's also the work of organizations like the Chicago Violence Reduction Strategy, which brings together community members, law enforcement, and social service providers to collaboratively address violence. Their approach is based on the belief that violence reduction requires a united front, a community effort. Successes have been noted, but the ongoing challenge is maintaining that unity in the face of adversity and despair. In the world of academia, researchers from the University of Chicago Crime Lab are using data-driven strategies to understand and combat violence. Their studies have provided invaluable insights into the nature of violence in the city. However, turning these insights into effective policies is a challenge in itself. These are but a few examples of the concerted efforts being made to stem the tide of violence in Chicago. Each initiative, each strategy, each success, and yes, each challenge is a crucial piece of a much larger puzzle. The issue of violence is multifaceted, and so too must be our solutions. These efforts are vital, but they cannot succeed alone. The question now is, what can we do? The answer is simple, yet complex. We can, and must, become champions of change. Change that is born from our collective desire to see a better, safer Chicago. This is not a task for a select few. It requires the commitment and effort of everyone who calls this city home, or even those who simply care about its future. It begins with supporting local organizations. These bodies, large and small, are often at the forefront of peace initiatives, providing safe spaces and opportunities for our youth. They offer resources, mentorship, and a sense of community that can help steer our young ones away from the path of violence. Whether it's through volunteering, donations, or simply spreading the word, our backing can make a real difference. But it doesn't stop there. We also need to be advocates for policy changes. Policies that address the root causes of violence, that provide education and job opportunities, that tackle poverty, and that build trust between the community and law enforcement. We must use our voices, our votes, and our influence to demand these changes. And lastly, we need to raise awareness. Share the stories of Chicago's struggles, but also its resilience and its hope. Let people know that violence is not an inherent part of the city's identity, but a problem that can be solved. Spread the word that every individual has a role to play, a contribution to make. This is a monumental task, no doubt, but remember, change happens one step at a time. It's the small actions that, when added together, create a tidal wave of transformation. So let's embark on this journey together. Let's make a stand. Let's make a difference. Let's not just dream of a better Chicago, but work towards it with dedication and resolve. Together, we can help write a new chapter for Chicago, a chapter of peace, prosperity, and unity.